The New England Patriots have officially wrapped up the entire process from the 2024 NFL Draft, which only means one thing: draft grades, baby. I think I might have gotten a little bit overexcited and hit the intro a little bit too early. So if I cut myself off, excuse me. Please also excuse the way that I look in today's video. I am making this video right after I hit the gym, which is let's see, just after 10:30 here on Tuesday. I actually am remaking this video. I made this video already, did the entire pre-production, was all ready to post, and I watched it back, just did not feel confident with the overall video. And I don't want to drop content that I'm not 100% with. So please excuse, one, the way I look, but two, excuse this video coming out late. But yes, today we are going to break down my final grades for the Patriots from the 2024 draft class. Going to go each pick by pick, give my grade, and just give my last and final thoughts on the players before we enter the offseason and rookie mini camp and all that great stuff. So without further ado, let's just hop into the first grade. And that's, of course, going to be Drake Maye. Drake Maye, I got to give this one an A+. You could give this one an A++, and I would say, you know what? I do not disagree with you. The best case scenario for the Patriots with a third overall pick, and really the best case scenario for them in this entire draft, happened. You could give the Patriots an A+ for this draft just for the lone fact that they got their potential, I got in trouble for saying this, their potential, I want to make this clear, franchise quarterback, okay? In any other draft class, I've said this, and it is just a fact, Drake Maye would have been the #1 quarterback taken off the board. But you obviously had Caleb Williams, who was an anomaly of a quarterback, or at least expected to be. He's kind of up there with what Trevor Lawrence was coming into the draft. And then you had Jaylen Daniels, who just won the Heisman. And guys who win the Heisman, they always, especially at the quarterback position, are usually the first guy taken off the board. But there was a point where Drake Maye was being talked about going first overall to the Bears instead of Caleb Williams when all of these kind of question marks were coming out about the character of Caleb Williams. I mean, the fact that Drake Maye was just sitting there for the Patriots at 3 still blows my mind. And I'm not going to lie, during the watch party for round 1, I was sitting there waiting for the Commanders to make their pick, and I was so scared that they were going to surprise us all and still go with Drake Maye. While I still am a big fan of Jaylen Daniels, I just truly do believe that Drake Maye fits the Patriots system with Alex Van Pelt so much better than any other quarterback in this class. And everybody who's going to scream, well, how do you know he fits our system, Patriots Global? We haven't seen anything. You know the playing style of Alex Van Pelt. You look at what he did with Cleveland, you know how he's going to generally run this team mixed with the players that the Patriots currently have. That's how you know Drake Maye is a fit for the Patriots. The Patriots, Alex Van Pelt, they are going to use their tight end significantly. I mean, the Patriots have always loved to utilize their tight ends. Alex Van Pelt loved utilizing David Njoku. With that being said, you need a quarterback who's going to be able to throw in the middle of the field, hit tight ends up the seam, and that's the best part of Drake Maye's game. That's where he feels most confident, according to himself, is throwing over the middle of the field. He also can throw outside of the numbers, too. It's not that he can't, as where somebody like Jaylen Daniels, we knew he could throw outside of the numbers, but throwing inside the numbers was a big concern for him. I also like about Drake Maye is the fact that he has that leader mentality. He grew up as the youngest sibling. He had his older siblings, all of his brothers, also being into sports, being a very competitive family. He does not want to be the underdog anymore. He knows that competition, and he has that competition level within himself. Also, the reason he stayed at North Carolina was because that's where he felt comfortable. That's where he felt his loyalty. He could stay close to his family and his team. So you know that Drake Maye is going to have his loyalty to the New England Patriots as long as they do him right, which you would think with Jerod Mayo in place that's exactly what. At the end of the day, is Drake Maye perfect? No. Drake Maye might not even start year one, and I am completely fine with that. There is a blueprint of quarterbacks that sat their first year, or at least sat for a period of time their rookie season, and they are some of the best quarterbacks in the NFL today. Justin Herbert sat for a certain period of time. Lamar Jackson sat for a certain period of time. Patrick Mahomes sat for almost his entire rookie season. I think he played like the final game or two. So again, if you do need to sit Drake Maye, you should be thinking long run. You want to be successful for the next 10, 15 plus years, not immediately come out of the bat just trying to make the playoffs and ruining the development of your young quarterback. And the final thing that I will say about this pick is that I think the type of quarterback that Drake Maye is transitions to the NFL really, really well. He can make all of the throws. Yes, his accuracy is a little bit touchy. His mechanics are a little touchy, which ultimately, I mean, I think that if his footwork is worked on, then he could be a very good quarterback. I think the accuracy and every other part of his game that is concerning will look a lot better once his footwork looks better. But he's a quarterback that can make all the throws. He has a really big arm. He's really good with the deep ball. He has really good velocity on the ball too. And he has mobility. Like he can run if he needs to, has really good pocket mobility, but he's not going to be the type of quarterback that immediately, as soon as a play breakdown or he's under pressure, is immediately going to take off and run with the ball. This is an offensive-minded league. This is a pass-first league. And having a quarterback that is going to do everything in his power to get the most out of the passing game, I think is extremely valuable. So absolutely love this pick. But moving on here is Jaylen Polk. In the second round, Patriots pick him at 37. Originally, they were sitting at 34. Now, there were rumors that the Patriots actually wanted to trade back into the first round with the in-division rival Buffalo Bills. That would have been, obviously, pick 32. So they literally want to trade right back into the end of the first round. And the Buffalo Bills were like, well, don't want to help an in-division rival. So they called up the Carolina Panthers and said, hey, Patriots are offering us this deal. What do you say? Realistically, they could have gotten more compensation from the Patriots, but they really didn't want to trade with an in-division rival. It said that they wanted Xavier Legette, but Keon Coleman was also a name that was thrown out there. So the Patriots traded down from 34 to 37. Technically, they did win that trade with the Chargers. I wasn't a massive fan of the trade. As you guys know, I was a big fan of the Patriots adding overall draft compensation. All they did, again, was swap 4th and 5th round picks. And for a team that has so many needs, a team that had like 18 roster spots heading into the draft, I was hoping that they were going to come out with more draft picks than they had going into the draft. And that's just not what they did. Ultimately, I guess it worked out for them. But again, I would have been a bigger fan of adding some draft picks, especially with how valuable that 34th pick is in the draft. But I'm going to give this Jaylen Polk pick a B+. I had a 3rd round grade on Polk, and I think that a lot of people have given this grade for Jaylen Polk a bit of a lower overall grade, just because some people feel that it was a little bit more of a reach for New England. But what you do have to understand is the fact that a lot of wide receivers were coming off the board. I mean, back end of the first round, we had wide receivers flying off. Then to start the second round, we had a lot of wide receivers flying off the board. It was also said that league-wide, Jaylen Polk was viewed as a 2nd round pick. So if New England tried to wait later, they might not have been able to get Jaylen Polk. If your guy is in the draft, don't worry about where he's projected to go ultimately. Just try to get him. Now, that's not to say, hey, if a guy's projected 6, take him in the 2nd like they did with Jordan Richards years ago. But when a guy's projected like 3rd round pick and you take him a little bit earlier in the 2nd, just get your guy. I really do like the Polk pick. Obviously, the Patriots do have connections for who their wide receiver coach is right now, ties back to Washington, which is obviously where Jaylen Polk was coming out from. He's also coming from a big competition level at the collegiate level, considering Washington went really all the way this past season. And Jaylen Polk, yeah, he's probably never going to be a wide receiver 1 for you, which is, I think, where some concern comes with picking him as high as they did in the 2nd. But he's going to be a solidified number 2 for you. Like, he has a high floor, but I would say an overall low ceiling. And I know that we all want that immediate wide receiver one, and it'll come with time. But what you have to understand is a good team is not just built around a good wide receiver one and having a wide receiver one, but also the core that is built around him. And the Patriots tried to get that wide receiver one this offseason, and it didn't work for them. So I think that's something they're going to do next offseason and make a priority. And at least for this offseason, they're going to try to build that core around the wide receiver one that they're ultimately going to try to get. And look, I mean, who knows? Maybe Jaylen Polk is hiding something that we just didn't see at Washington. Washington had a very, very good wide receiver core with McMillan. You also obviously had Roma Dunze, who was easily and clear cut their wide receiver one, to where Jaylen Polk was never going to kind of serve as that number one guy. It's going to be completely open for anybody to take over that role in New England. But, Polk is a short-handed wide receiver, extremely, extremely reliable and extremely versatile too. Very good as a run blocker. But, I mean, this is a guy that can play the X. He can play in the slot. He can play out wide. He can play in the Z. He is going to be a true mismatch and has ability after the catch. I think that there's going to be a true competition between Jaylen Polk and Javon Baker for who's going to be that outside X receiver, because, while Polk is very versatile, I would say that I'm more confident in Polk being a better and more reliable go up and get it 50-50 contested catch. Great character too, from what's been said coming out of Washington. Again, at the end of the day, is this a guy that's going to be a wide receiver one for you? Is he the most explosive? Does he have the ability to become a wide receiver one? Maybe not. Was it maybe a little bit higher than we would have liked? Maybe a little bit. And I think that's what brings down the grade. But overall, I think this is an excellent selection for the Patriots. But moving on here, the Patriots finally addressed the offensive line. And I love the first three picks. You go quarterback, you go wide receiver, you go offensive tackle. In everybody's mock drafts, this is what we've been doing. This is what I said during the entire process they should do. Whether it's quarterback, offensive tackle, wide receiver, or quarterback, wide receiver, offensive tackle, those should be the three positions that they hit within their first three picks. And that's exactly what they did. So I love that that's the route they took. I just don't necessarily love the player that they hit on here. I had Caden Wallace as a 5th round pick. And look, obviously, offensive tackles were flying off the board. They were flying off the board in the first round. We had a couple go in the second. And then unfortunately, right before the Patriots pick here in the 3rd round, there was a ton of offensive tackles that flew off the board, including Kingsley Suamataia, who went to the Chiefs. Look, ultimately for me, this was just a pick that I did not completely understand. And what I mean by that is I think there were better overall offensive tackles still on the board, right? Look, a lot were going off the board. So there wasn't necessarily a whole lot of guys, especially because it was said the Patriots board in general for this entire class was pretty small. And if Caden Wallace was the guy that you wanted, okay, maybe you didn't want to wait till the 5th round. But at the very least, you could have traded down in the 3rd. They selected him with the original pick they had in the 3rd round, which is high in the 3rd. You could have traded down, gotten extra draft compensation, and still gotten Caden Wallace. Again, a projected 5th round pick. And a lot of people saying, well, Patriots Global, he's a versatile offensive lineman. He can play anywhere along the offensive line. He hasn't proven that. He quite literally has not proven that at any point so far in his career. Look at the stats. I mean, the last 3 years at the collegiate level, he has only played as a right tackle. He has only played as a right tackle. He's not taken a single snap anywhere else other than as a right tackle. And look, I get it. He said that he can play at, anywhere along the offensive line. He can play at left tackle and that he feels comfortable doing so. But don't talk about it, be about it. I could tell you that I could play quarterback in the NFL, but that doesn't matter that I'm saying I can do it. I got to prove to you that I can do it. I actually have to take snaps in real life. You can't just say it and take it for word. And look, I get it. Olu Fashanu, who went to the Jets, he was the starting left tackle for Penn State. So obviously, Caden Wallace was never going to get the opportunity to play there. But Caden Wallace was even asked when the last time he remembers playing over on the left side, and he could not even recall. Now, He has played there during practices for Penn State, so it's not like he's completely raw. But if the Patriots wanted a left tackle, go ahead and get yourself a left tackle. Stop making things harder. Stop drafting, a right tackle and hoping he can move over to the left side. Stop drafting right guards and then moving them over to the left side and vice versa. Keep a player at the position that they ultimately played at. Overall, not super high on the pick. I think he has the physicality to be able to switch over to the left side, and it's not that I think that he won't be able to. It's just I think there are better players on the board. If you wanted, an offensive tackle, you had the ammunition to trade up, and they just didn't do so. So, just kind of hoping that they're able to develop this guy as he transitions over to the left side. But moving on here, the Patriots did double up on the offensive line, this time going on the interior. First pick here in the 4th round. Again, Patriots 2 4th-round picks after that trade with the Chargers, and they select Layden Robinson. This might even be a little bit harsh, and again, I'm open to this grade being changed. I've seen some people give this a C-. I've seen some people give this an F. I think that this pick does have some potential, but there's obviously concern. Again, the Patriots, they had a lot of needs. And in the 4th round, there are still very good game-changing day one plug-in players, and they went to guard. You drafted Cole Strange in the 1st round back in 2022. This past season, you drafted 3 interior offensive linemen in Jake Andrews, Sidy Sow, and Antonio Mafi. And as a 4th-round pick, you are projecting that Layden Robinson at some point this season or at some point starting in 2025 is going to be a true starting piece for you that takes quality amount of reps. He also doesn't have positional versatility. Throughout his entire time at Texas A&M was only a right guard, didn't take snaps anywhere else. Now, I am more confident in interior offensive linemen being able to play, on the right side, the left side, on the interior. So I'm not too concerned with that. As long as they don't try to make him a tackle, I think that, he'll have that versatility on the inside. But again, 4th-round pick early in the 4th round. This was a guy that was projected to go later. And not just that, there were several interior offensive linemen that I think were much better all-around prospects than Layden Robinson if this is the route that the Patriots really wanted to go. And I think ultimately the way that New England is looking at this is that they're saying if we can get him back to his 2021 version where he put up an overall PFF grade of 80.7 and he was the 13th ranked guard in the nation out of a qualifying 173 guards, then they feel that they are getting an absolute steal here. Problem is over the last 2 seasons, he took a major dip compared to what we saw in that 2021 season. This past year was the 61 ranked guard in the nation out of a qualifying 182, and in 2022, the 130th guard out of a qualifying 168. The other important thing to remember also is that Drake Maye and Elliott Wolf, they didn't draft Cole Strange. They didn't draft Antonio Mafi, Jake Andrews, and Sidy Sow, and it's a different all-around offensive system and scheme, and they might feel that Layden Robinson fits that a whole lot better than the guys that were drafted by Bill Belichick. So that's why I'm saying this grade could improve. It's just we have to see what their plan is first with Layden Robinson, and right now all we know is the player, where they drafted him, and who was still on the board. And to be completely honest, it wouldn't surprise me if the team knows something that we, the fan base, don't, which makes this pick in hindsight make a lot more sense. Obviously, we don't know it now, but we could potentially know something. Cole Strange doesn't look like he's going to be ready to start the season. Again, a Bill Belichick pick, and Drake Maye and Elliott Wolf might see it where Cole Strange is a casualty at the end of training camp, maybe before, maybe he's a trade candidate. And then you have Sidy Sow going back over from right guard to left guard, which is where he played in college. And then you have Layden Robinson immediately plug in as your starting right guard. Then this pick makes more sense. But moving on up here next with their next 4th-round pick, Javon Baker. I'm giving this one an A-. This was easily one of their best value picks. And if you watched my live stream and my video breakdowns on these players, when they drafted Jaylen Polk, I literally said, I wonder if this takes somebody like Javon Baker off their board. And I was hoping it wouldn't, but I was scared it might. I was scared that that might be that X receiver that they kind of viewed to be that perimeter 50-50 contested catch guy, but they doubled up at wide receiver and got excellent value because Baker was a projected third round pick and they're getting him, kind of like mid to a little bit earlier fourth round. I really like Baker too. He was one of my guys during this entire draft process. The difference between him and Polk is that he's a really, really good route runner, really, really good route tree. Like there is a reason that he's had comparisons to somebody like Stephon Diggs. And again, I think that a low-key competition this offseason is going to be between Polk and Baker for who is going to be that outside X contested catch guy. Both will get opportunities there, but who is going to be the number one guy in that role for the start of this upcoming season? Also, unlike Jaylen Polk, I think that Javon Baker, excuse me, has the ability to be a true wide receiver one, but he also could be a wide receiver 4 for you at best. To me, he has a low floor, but an extremely high ceiling. Jaylen Polk, you're confident that he's going to be your number 2. Might not be better, but he's going to be a number 2 for you. Javon Baker could be an elite number 1 or could just be a number 4. He has that contested catch ability. He has the after the catch ability, but he also has that dog in him. I mean, he has a chip on his shoulder. I mean, since being drafted, posting videos of him working out. When he was drafted, obviously telling Patriots reporters, grab your popcorn because I want to make people in wheelchairs stand up, which absolute crazy quote to be said immediately after your draft. I mean, Belichick probably would have cut him if Belichick was still in the building after that one. But he also said that there is no way that there are 10 receivers in America that are better than him. So again, obviously he's motivated. He thinks a lot of himself and he's going to have that chip on his shoulder. But I think there might also be some low-key character concerns with him to where if he's not performing the way he wants, he's not being utilized the way he wants, or he's not getting the amount of attention that he wants, is he going to be somebody that throws a temper tantrum and complains? I think that that's something that we definitely have to keep an eye on. Not just that too, but that drop rate is very concerning. I mean, just over 10%. It was close to 11% this past season. As a wide receiver, you got to get better at catching the ball. And Javon Baker just has those wide open, just concentration drops that he really needs to improve on. Overall, though, really good value, and I don't see how you hate this pick. Moving on, though, in the 6th round, Patriots obviously not having a 5th round pick. The Patriots select a cornerback, their first and only defensive pick in Marcellus Dial. I'm giving this one a B. I like it. Do I love it? No. Dial was a guy that was projected to be somewhere between a 6th round pick or also could have been a high priority UDFA. Obviously, again, New England takes him high in the 6th round. I wish that they would have packaged a couple of picks, traded back into the 5th round, and targeted somebody like Nehemiah Pritchett or Cam Hart, 2 very, very good cornerbacks that fell that I think would have made a lot more sense than Marcellus Dial, as they were those, big outside man cornerbacks that New England needs opposite of Christian Gonzalez. Now, Marcellus Dial, the height, I'm going to be curious to see where the Patriots currently track him in at. I've heard 6 foot, but then I've also heard like 5'10", 5'11". Overall, expected to be a little bit more undersized. He does have that 4.4 speed, though, to be able to match up with receivers on the outside. To me, is this that number 2 cornerback on the outside other than Gonzo? I don't know. We'll see him compete this offseason and see if that's a role that he can ultimately take. But I right now ultimately view this as more of a Jonathan Jones replacement. Jones constantly injured. He's in his 30s and in contract year. He's probably going to retire soon. A guy who has that inside-outside versatility, but also has the speed to be able to match up with some of those faster receivers. That's a role I could see Marcellus Dial in. Also early on, working on special teams. He's considered a little bit more of a ball hawk. Had some of the most pass breakups in the nation this past year. And then in 2022, led Carolina in interceptions. What I will say, too, about this pick is that he fits the Patriots system like an absolute glove. Like, he plays very, very well when it comes to man-to-man coverage. Not as good playing zone, but the Patriots are a man-to-man defense. That is what they primarily run, and I know they want to get back into running that a lot more, considering last year they were dealing with a lot of injuries and didn't exactly have the personnel to run as much man as they like. So that is something that Dial definitely has going for him. But moving on to the next pick here, Patriots' second pick in the sixth round. This was the pick they got from trading Mac Jones, ironically. And they go quarterback Joe Milton. I'm giving this one a B minus. Do I love the pick? No. Do I hate the pick? No. One of the big reasons that the grade is ultimately being brought down is because you're doubling up at cornerback, right? Like you went Drake Maye with the third overall pick. You know that that is a guy you're doing everything in your power to make the future of your team. And Joe Milton's really not going to be competing for that starting job. You're kind of just hoping that, Joe Milton is going to be a good backup for you, or is going to be somebody that you can flip in a year or two for higher draft compensation. You use a 6th-round pick on him. If you develop him correctly, you're kind of hoping that maybe you can swap him for like a 4th or 5th-round pick. Me personally, I just would have liked to see them either double up at offensive tackle, maybe go edge rusher, go cornerback, go safety, go interior of the defensive line, so many other places that I would have personally went. But Joe Milton was a projected 5th-round pick. So you also cannot deny the value that they are getting here. Joe Milton has easily the best and strongest arm in the quarterback class in this entire class. I mean, it's really not even close. Please go ahead and watch his highlights if you have not already. I was shocked that the Patriots actually made this pick just because I didn't think that he'd be somebody that was in play for them. But at the very least, Joe Milton is going to make the offseason fun for Patriots fans. Training camp, preseason, it is going to be a fun offseason watching him work, but doesn't have a high football IQ, does work really well within the pocket, has good mobility, hard guy to bring down both in space and in the pocket. But, while he has a great arm and he has good accuracy deep, his short to intermediate accuracy is not there, and he can't make every single throw in the NFL. You got to know the difference between like a lob pass, between a bullet pass, and he just throws pretty much every single pass 100 miles an hour. But again, you're doubling up at the most important position in football. You're also getting excellent value, and it's also going to be a fun pick. Again, is this the pick that I would have made? Probably not. I would have tried to, added somebody who could have made a bigger day one impact. But again, could have been a lot worse. And with the final pick for the Patriots in the draft, they get Jaylen Bell, and I'm giving this one a B plus. I debated on giving it an A minus. This could arguably be their best overall value pick in the entire draft class. And they had a couple of those. I mean, Joe Milton, Javon Baker. But Jaylen Bell was expected to be a 5th-round pick, and the Patriots are getting him in the 7th round. The reason that I'm ultimately not giving this a higher overall grade is because as he transitions to the NFL especially, I don't know how much Jaylen Bell is going to be a true tight end. Not just that, but there is no one specific place that he works best in. He operates everywhere on the offense. I mean, this is someone you can put in line, you can put in the slot, outside, H-back, and you could view that as a good thing. But then you also look at it and you say, well, where do I place you that you're a true mismatch? And I think that's the biggest question for him, is that he never solidified himself in a specific role. He's 6'2", so he also does not have the height, the size, the frame to be able to play tight end, especially at the NFL level. But one of the worst parts to his game, too, is the fact that he cannot block. Like, he's a really, really bad blocker, and you need to be able to do that to play tight end in the NFL. Not just that also, but he's not a good contested catcher. This isn't a guy that, is going to body over guys and catch passes between 2, 3 defenders. Really, pretty much every single attribute you need to play tight end in the NFL is the areas in which Jaylen Bell lacks, which makes me wonder if maybe the Patriots try him as more of like an outside receiver or just a bigger slot guy. The way that I see this pick is like a poor man's developmental Malachi Quarterly because of Jaylen Bell's ability after the catch. Little interesting fact here about Jaheim Bell. Drafted tight ends with a career 2 yards or more yards per route run and a 25% or better screen target rate since 2017. There's three tight ends. It's Dallas Goedert, Brock Bowers, and Jaheim Bell. That's very good company there in that category for Jaheim Bell. Now, not only that, but per PFF, Jaheim Bell was tied for second among tight ends in this draft class in yards after the catch per reception with 8.1 yards. That was the same as Jatavion Sanders and was only behind first round pick Brock Bowers. His ability after the catch, not only that though, but to force missed tackles has been one of the best. In fact, it's actually the best combination out of any tight end that has been drafted since 2015. This guy has intangibles that you can work with, but again, I just feel like he screams more wide receiver than he does tight end. Not to mention the Patriots do have some bodies at tight end already. I mean, Austin Hooper, Hunter Henry, Wilcox, who's a very good number three that has receiving upside, but is a very good blocker too. I don't know if Jaheim Bell can really cement himself in with the rest of those tight ends. And you look at the wide receiver core for New England, and right now it's really, really stacked. So I think he has an uphill battle, but ultimately in the seventh round, I like the intangibles. So overall, I'm going to give this draft class for the Patriots a B plus. I've seen some people try to give it like, an A, an A minus. I wouldn't necessarily say you're wrong. It's just overall averaging out these grades, it just came to a B plus for me. Ultimately, what brought down the overall draft class for New England was the reaches in the third and early fourth round with their offensive linemen. I think that's kind of more of the questions. That's a little bit more where they went wrong. Other than that, though, like this was a really, really, really good draft class by the Patriots. We'll just have to see ultimately how these guys develop. And we'll be back here in a year giving our grades after we see each of these players a year into the system. What I will say too is I firmly believe, and I got some flack for this on the AFC's roundtable, but I firmly do believe that the Patriots had the best draft out of the entire AFC East. I think that the Bills and the Jets, they also had good draft classes and they weren't too far behind where the Patriots were. But I think if you know anything about football, you know anything about the draft with the Patriots, with the players the Patriots got, I think they're going to make an impact immediately, but also in the long run. So I really, really like this draft class, guys. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Remember to leave a big like on the video. And most importantly, subscribe to the channel for all your New England Patriots news if you have not already. But most importantly, guys, stay safe and never forget, go Pats.